Hey, man.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. So you're over there at Mark Stoner's place, huh?
I am, but I'm not meeting with Mark Stoner.
Yeah, I know
That-
you were
Yeah,
doing other things, but that's where you happened to be when it was time to go live. So
I just said, well, I'm here for a while, so I'll just stay here.
awesome.
It's better than trying to do this as I'm driving down the road in the rain.
Exactly. Exactly. Is it raining over there? It hasn't rained here yet.
Oh man, I came through a bunch of it to get here.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it was crazy. But right now, I have no idea. I'm up in their training room, and so it's all
All
good.
right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited about today because we're doing something that's a little bit different than anything that we've done before, at least with the Spark Live. Oh, Renee says it's pouring there.
Oh,
So we're going to be doing question and answers today. So if you're here and you're watching and you have questions, or you hear one of the questions that we're talking about from someone else and it prompts an idea or a thought or a comment or a question, drop that in the comments so that we'll see it and we can answer those. I'd much rather answer the calls of the people uh, that are here and watching than just going through the ones that are on a list that we've compiled from previous clients and questions and things that we've gotten. So if you have a question, please jump in. And in the meantime, please like or heart us. Is that how they do it? That's how my son does it.
yeah. Do the heart thing.
Yeah. So please do that just to show us the love. That helps us with the Facebook algorithm stuff. So please do that if you would. Okay. Well, I'm ready if you're ready. You want to jump in?
Yeah. Let's jump in. But one of the things because I wasn't able to get on here. So I'm gonna start. Can I just start with a question that's not listed here, but something that I got asked just recently?
Sure.
So it's about search engine optimization, and I thought this was really interesting because I talked to a guy, and he's pretty much convinced that you just do it once, and that's all you need to do it, and everything's okay. And so I had a long conversation with him, and by the end of it, here's the base deal about that about search engine optimization. I just want to say there's three parts to it. One is what you put on your website. That's number one. Both in technical content, pictures, videos. There's a lot to it, but that has to be set up first for search engine optimization. The second thing is all the off page stuff because every page starts with a score. And so that score is either gaining what I'm going to call link juice. It used to be page rank, and Google got rid of it because people didn't understand how it was calculated. So it's really kind of link juice. So for every page, you're either gaining link juice or you're losing link juice or you're holding your own. Those are the three things you can do. You can either stay where you are, gain more, lose. You lose it by linking out to other pages. You gain it by pages linking to you. And you stay the same by not doing anything. So that's your choice. So once it's built, then if you're going to just let it sit there and be the same, it can do that. But the reality is, if your competitors are doing more than you, they are building more than you and they are going to outrank you. So there's only a couple of scenarios where SEO, the third thing, let me just talk about the third thing because that's off page and there's that. The third thing, it has to do with indexing. So spiders come through. Spiders have there's nothing that a spider does that helps you rank or not. A spider just comes through and updates the page when something has been changed. Okay. They're updating that and they're going and telling the index, hey, this page has changed. So we need to put it in there as opposed to what you have. So you don't get spidered all the time. It depends on how many changes you make. You can get spidered every day. That doesn't have to do with ranking. But what does have to do with ranking is the changes on the pages. If those changes are made that help you with ranking and they get indexed, that's great. It helps. If it goes the other way, then it could do that too. So if you're not continually working on that and you have competitors that are, then that's how they outrank you because they're doing the work and you're not. So there's basically two things that you need to know, that if these two things happen, you can absolutely stop doing anything with search engine optimization. Here are the two things. One, Google stops making changes, and right now they make about 3,000 of them a year. So if they quit changing their algorithms that we all have to chase, if they stop that, then SEO doesn't matter anymore. The other thing is if you lose all your competitors. So if those two things go away, then you can no longer have to worry about SEO. And that's the easiest way I know to explain that.
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense. It's not a cumulative thing. It's not like um, putting money in a savings account and watching it grow over time. It's more like putting gas in a gas tank and using it up, and you got to just keep replenishing, keep filling up the tank, keep doing what you got to do in order to keep the motor running.
Yeah. So I've been trying to figure out how to explain that the best way possible, and that's the best way I know to explain how it works, so that people will have a really good idea of that.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So here's a question that came in, and we get this question frequently from people who are talking to us who want to work with us but don't necessarily know what that's going to look like, in terms of like how much money it's going to be and all of that. So the question is, I'm a small company, I'm growing, but right now I have a very limited budget for marketing. So I was wondering, like, if you were me and you only had this much, how would you spend that much money? Where would you put your money first? Like, what's the priority for online marketing?
So there's a lot to that. So I'm going to assume that it's, you have a little competition, that it's not something that because we do see people that don't really need to do anything, but they're the only chimney sweep within 200 miles. And that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. If you're in an area where you have some competition, I will tell you the very first thing I would do is make sure that I had a really well optimized website. And the reason for that is if you look at how many people come through Facebook and how many people come through Google far outweighs any other entity for business. So you have to give Google what Google needs, and the first thing that Google's going to do is they need a website. And that, when I say that, that also should include your Google business profile.
Yeah, I look at it as like a bullseye, right? I mean, concentric rings, and the thing in the middle is the thing that you're aiming for, and it's the only thing that you control, really, and that's that's your website, and making sure that is intact and in place, and that you have a good representation of your business online. Do that first, because it's the only thing you control. We talk to people that are like, well, I put all my money in Facebook ads and my Facebook page, and then suddenly Facebook took down their Facebook page and they had no more presence online at all. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to put all your eggs in someone else's basket. You own your website. Hopefully make sure you own your website. Focus on that first, and then grow out on the concentric circles. And those next things would be anything that points at your website, right, from online. Those listings like Google Business Profile and those things that point at your website. And then further out, you're starting to talk about things like social media and other places where you can play and get a lot of traction. But ultimately, all of it hinges on having that bullseye right and having that website really dialed in. And it's not a bad idea. And don't think, again, that doing your website and once it's done, then you never have to revisit it. You're always coming back to your website, constantly getting it more optimized, better positioned, better content, changing things out, keeping it fresh. So you have to have a budget for that too. But yeah, I think that's where I would start
Yeah.
if I
The other thing too that I think people have a misunderstanding with, especially around their website, um, is they don't understand that technology underneath the hood is changing as well. We don't see it, but in the code and some of the things in the structure that's actually underneath the website, these old structures are now companies are starting to not support them. And so when old technology is not supported, eventually it's going to crash and burn. So, that's another issue. And people don't even think about that because it's not something that you see. So making sure that, every 4 to 5 years that you get your website updated, just structurally. It doesn't have, if you love your website, how it looks, how it feels, the writing and all that, and you just think it's the most wonderful thing in the world, that's great. Nothing wrong with that. But sometimes it needs to be moved to a better structure, a more current structure, I think would be the way that I would put it. Not necessarily better, but just current technology, so that it's faster. It's working. It's like maintenance. You're only going to drive an old car so long. You know.
Yep, that's good. All right, well, let's look at the next question. This one is an unfortunate one, and I always cringe every time I have to hear it because I know how painful this can be for a business owner that's going
Hold,
through
hold
this.
on a second, because Linda Roydhouse has a good question with around websites.
Okay.
So, what content should a relevant website include? Ooh, that's a good question, Linda. I like it. Do you want me to answer, or do you want to answer, Carter?
I figured you had an answer if you put the question on the screen. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, I do have an answer. So here's the content that needs to be relevant. There's a great book called They Ask You Answer, and it is really kind of the base of how Google works. So whatever questions your customers ask, that's the most relevant content you need on your website. It's the answers to those questions. And that's it. That's the most relevant. That's the most relevant. Now there's stuff you have to have on there, the phone number, how to, all that kind of stuff. Now I'm not saying that's not good, book an appointment, how to get a hold of you, all that kind of stuff you need. But the most relevant content is how people ask you, make sure you have the answers to those questions on your website.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think there's much to add to that. The way you organize that information on your website can look like a lot of different things. It doesn't always have to be done the same way, but it's got to be there and it's got to be easy to find. The easier it is for a consumer to find the information they're looking for, the more relevant you become to them. So if they have to hunt and peck and look around and waste a lot of time on your website, their chances are they're not going to stick around. So that's part of being relevant too, is not only having the information but making sure that it's easy to find. All right, so this next question, I hate it when I get it because I know how painful this is, but this is the question. Somebody just called my office and told me that there's all sorts of weird stuff all over my website. And I went and looked, and I don't know how long it's been this way, but it looks like my site's been hacked. And there's ads for Cialis and Viagra and all of this stuff all over my page. Help, what do I do? And this is, I understand the pain of this, and it is a painful thing when your website has been hacked, especially if you don't have any technical knowledge for how to unhack it, right? Like how to get it back. So most of the time, the hacks are caused by somebody who's been able to gain access to your web pages or to the system, the CRM that runs it, the content management system, CMS. There's too many acronyms in my world. No. So if they've hacked it and they've gotten in, then they can drop all sorts of content. Usually it's spammy link kind of content, and they'll put that all over the pages. That's actually the best case scenario. Okay, that's like the hacking that if you're gonna get hacked, that's That's the way you want to get hacked. The other kinds of hacking are somebody inserts malicious code onto your website, trying to infect the users of your website. So your customers, when they come to your website, are now encountering code that is maliciously trying to get on their computer. And you become the source of a lot of other people's misery and being hacked and spreading that. So that's a bad situation to be in. And then lastly, the category that is probably the most expensive and the one that you better have insurance for, cybersecurity insurance for, and that's when somebody is trying to insert code to intercept credit card information when consumers are using a form on your website to give you their credit card. And they just sit there and pick up all those credit card numbers every single time, and they don't tell you. They don't advertise it. In fact, it's crucial to them to keep that hack as quiet as possible, so that it'll stay in place for as long as possible and gather as many credit cards as they can. And that's the kind of situation where you have legal responsibilities to disclose that you've been hacked, to tell anybody who's used your website in the past X amount of time that you've been hacked, and all of that. So the question of what do I do if it's been hacked kind of depends on how you've been hacked. Let me just, for the purposes of this, let me just say I'll deal with the first question of like cleaning up the links and everything that get added to your site when you've been spam hacked. Okay, everything else you need to talk to somebody who has experience in cleaning up websites and doing full audit of your website to look for that code and to be able to find out just how far back it goes and how long it's been going on, because and how many people it might have affected, because that's going to have you're going to have some compliance issues at that point that you're going to have to deal with. So let's just talk about the spam hacks. The only way to be able to go in and remove all of that is to go in and look at the actual page source, okay, the source code that makes the page work, okay, that's going to be HTML. There could be other types of files and things that are involved, but you're going to be looking for those links and trying to find them and scanning every line of code on multiple documents or multiple files, looking for any instance of that code that's been added. Sometimes the code that gets added doesn't look malicious, and if you don't know what you're looking for, you may not even notice it, and it generates that code every time the page is loaded. So you may not actually see the bad links in the code. It's just a script that runs that creates those links on the fly. And that becomes a little bit harder to find. In any case, anytime you've been hacked, it's good to get professionals involved. And you're just going to have to pay some money to have somebody clean it up. Not only to clean it up, but to prevent it from happening again. Because you should know, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. The better you are at preventing being hacked by using good security practices up front, the less opportunity there is for hackers to do what they want to do, and the less you're going to have to pay in time and a website that's down, and just all of the hassle of being hacked. So we've cleaned up a number of them over the years. It's not a service that we offer to anyone that comes to us. It's only a service that we've provided to clients most of the time. And for our own clients, if we ever have a client that gets hacked, we have protocols in place and have spent a lot of time developing a way of being able to restore a website very quickly to a pre-hacked version of it, so that and we monitor our websites very closely too, so that usually it's a matter of minutes after a hack has occurred before we learn about it. So not days or weeks or months like some people have experienced. So I hope that helps a little bit. The bottom line, short answer is get a professional involved very quickly.
Well, and I'm going to go one step further. I've had people, when I tell them how much our hosting is, because we do what's called Bush, where it's backups, updates, security, and hosting. So it's not just hosting. There's a number of things that we do in this, and I won't do just hosting. And the reason is because I can go out and get hosting for $6 a month, but I know what that hosting is, and it doesn't have the things with it that needs to go with it in order to protect your site well. So that's why we do it the way we do. It's expensive. We pay a heck of a lot of money for what we have in place, and I would pay it again. I mean, it's if you've ever been through it. I'm looking at Terry's comment here. Did you see Terry's comment?
I did.
Yeah, it is a nightmare, and so I totally agree. Pay up front, pay a little bit more, protect yourself. It's the only advice I got there.
Yeah, boy, Terry, that must have been painful. I mean, it sounds like not only your website was hacked, but maybe your GoDaddy account was hacked too, and somebody who was pretending to be you transferred that domain into their own account or transferred it away from GoDaddy and into their property. So I've never had that experience before, but I can imagine trying to prove your identity and trying to clear all that up in order to get it back must have been crazy. All right.
I'll imagine. All right. Next one.
Yep. So oops, I'm sorry, jumping around here. This is one we get all the time, and it's worth answering. I think we've answered it in various forms before, but let's just answer it again. How do I get more reviews? I mean,
ask.
Everything I try doesn't seem to get them. I can't seem to, no matter what I do, people just won't. I'll ask them, I'll give them a link, but I just can't get any more reviews. What do I do?
Well, first and foremost, I don't believe that if you ask enough. I've been in sales for a long time, and you know this. I did financial, I've done real estate, I've done a whole lot of different sales stuff in my lifetime, and I will tell you, it's a numbers game, and people don't like that when you say that. You can't just ask one a day. You got to ask 3 a day, 5 a day. How many? However many went out. If you've got a company, you've had 15 appointments that day, there better be 15 asks. Whether the technician is asking, whether you're asking through email, through text, it doesn't, everybody thinks there's this magic bullet. Well, will I get more if I do this? Will I get more if I do that? You'll get more if you just make sure to make it a commitment and consistently ask every time you have an appointment.
Well, but it's more than just asking. It's the way you ask too, right? That makes a huge difference because, I mean, I've got a 15-year-old. When he barges in while I'm on the phone on a business call, he says, "Dad, can I have $20, please? Like right now," and tosses me my wallet. What? No.
Well,
Hold on.
I'm assuming that people are crafting their message.
Okay, but
I say you have to ask.
I don't think we should assume it. If my son shows up and says, "Dad, I took out the trash, I took the dog outside, I put away all the dishes, and and I'm about to go out with friends. Oh, by the way, would it be okay if I had $20?" Then I'm much more likely to cooperate with this plan. So, that's it, is when you ask, how you ask, the number of times that you ask, setting the expectation, and providing value before you ask. These are all keys to getting more yeses.
Well, yeah, and I'm assuming if you do 15 appointments, they're 15 really great appointments. I mean, don't ask if you've just botched something so bad that it's botched. Don't ask for a review on that one. I mean, that's common sense. So maybe I'll go back. So yeah, I think there's 3 things that you said that I'll go back and say you have to ask, but you have to ask the right way. But even before you have to ask, I do think you have to set an expectation. I think that's the number one thing. And I think that's probably the one thing I think that gets missed more than anything else. And that expectation can be set in a number of ways. It can be set in the very first phone call when you're setting the appointment. just letting them know, hey, we're a company, we rely on reviews. So after our appointment, we're probably going to ask you for a review. Do you want that texted to you or emailed? And then that way you can very quickly, in whatever system mark the way that they want to be communicated with. It's a really good way to do that. And you've set the expectation up front. I've seen people do it then. I've seen people do it on here's what to expect at your appointment emails and texts, to where they go through. And then once the appointment is over, we're going to ask you for a review because we want to know that that we've done everything that we can and that the job was done, yada, yada. I mean, it's messaging. Yeah,
Yep.
sure.
Yep.
Messaging. So setting the expectation, then after the fact, if you've set an expectation that they're going to be asked, then however you ask after the fact, I don't think it makes as much difference, though. I think the tech asking right there once it's done, once they know that the job has been done to the client's satisfaction, I do think that's probably the best way. But whether you get it there, then I think following up with a text or an email asking again, I think is also a good way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Multiple ways, multiple angles.
Yeah.
And all of that adds up to more yeses. So that's kind of the answer.
I didn't mean to be glib. I've got too many people that when I say, do you ask on, ask every customer, and then I get it's got to be consistent.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
That's why I like having a system.
Yes, I love a system for that. I think we've got time for one more quick one here, and this is another review question. So I recently lost a lot of my reviews on Google. Don't know how, but can I get them back?
So that's a loaded one. Man, who asked that question? Well, first and foremost, we nor you control Google. So that's the very first thing I'm going to say. And I know that sounds like such a cop out, but unfortunately, it's the truth. If I could control Google, there are a few things I would like to change. Let me tell you why they do this periodically. They do have times that they go through and look at reviews and determine, and it's normally done with machine learning now, with these big AI programs and whatever. They do go through the reviews and they call those that they think are possibly spam reviews, that they're not right. Sometimes they pull out the ones that are only stars, that nobody's written anything, that people have just, but they'll pull out the 1 star as well as the 5 star. That's one of the things. If you ask for a review, you probably want to see if they'll do 2 things. One, put a location on it. And the second thing is to write something, actually write, and not just give a starred review, because Google does sometimes do that and cull through those. If you've had somebody that has flagged your account, sometimes you lose them through that. Sometimes you can lose them when you move from locations. Most of the time, under those 2 different things, but you can lose reviews, and normally you can get those back. Because you get closed down or somebody says you don't exist, and then you have to prove that you exist, and so they come back over time. So it just depends on why they've done it. I mean, that has a lot to do with whether you can get them back or not.
Yeah, and it's not like making a phone call, or I don't even know if there's like a submission process to appeal to Google to say, hey.
Yeah, there is. There's ways that you can get with them, and for our clients, we do it for them. I feel like sometimes Aaron has a red phone directly to Google Business Profile. He doesn't, but it feels that way sometimes. But yeah, what I would do is just Google just go into Google and type in, I've lost my reviews, what can I do? And then make sure that you're on a Google document, and there's usually documents there that can walk you through what you need to do.
All right.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right. Well, I think that's it for today. We've still got a few questions left, but those can wait until the next time that we do this. I think we're going to try to start doing this one monthly, just to get through more questions. And, we're always out at, the different conferences and things that we do. And we're always talking with people, and these questions are just important to make sure. So we know that if one person has a question, a lot of people usually have the question. So
Yep.
We're going to start doing more of these. All right. Well, just a reminder, Spark Live can be found as a podcast, an audio podcast after the fact on Spotify, iTunes, and Google Play. You can also rewatch it on Facebook on Wednesdays, and you can also see it on YouTube as well. So make sure that you share this with other people too. The more people that watch it, the more people that engage with us, the more interactive it becomes, and the better content that we're able to do. So do that for us if you would. Please like and subscribe. All right, that's it. Next week, we're talking about something that we've kind of picked back up again with, we've been talking a lot about visuals and how important they are on your website. So next week, we're going to talk about how to future-proof your location and your company for visual search, which is it's the thing that everybody needs to be talking about.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks everyone for being here, and we'll see you again next week.
See you later.